Thank you so much, ma'am. And at the onset, I want to thank the organizers for keeping COVID in COVID era. So hopefully next time we'll meet physically. And the topic given to me is PCOS a risk factor for increasing severity for COVID infection. What have we learned till date? Uh, well, I don't have any conflict of interest for this talk except Dr. Madhuri and Dr. Durusha. They are the ones who motivated me to deep dive and write a small little letter in the Journal of Human Reproductive couple of months back. And Madam Duru also has penned out a very nice article. What I'm going to do in the next 20 minutes allocated to me is talk on basics of COVID and gender, because it's clearly a female gender has an advantage protecting women from COVID. Then COVID-19 comorbidities, mainly linking hypertension, diabetes, obesity. The link between androgen and PCOS, linking PCOS and COVID-19. And the last part, which our president, Madam Durusha, is advocating, is vaccine for PCOS as a comorbidity, which I also endorse. And maybe a simple take-home message. So clearly, we know that women are protected, and in PCOS, they lose that protection. So that gender advantage is lost. We know that both men and women are equally affected by COVID-19, but the propensity for severe disease and higher mortalities in men compared to women. And these gender disparities are influenced by the male hormone testosterone or androgens on the immune response of COVID-19 infections. We know there are a lot of behavioral differences between various genders, men and women. We know higher rates of smoking, non-compliance to COVID-appropriate behavior, higher prevalence of NCDs, low vitamin D. They all contribute a little higher incidence of COVID. In fact, the men to women ratio is 2:1. But one thing is very clear, that the entry point of SARS-CoV-2 virus is through TMP-RSS2. And the TMP-RSS2 is the scissor or the transmembrane protease, which I will allude to in a diagram a little later, which basically docks the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein docks into the ACE2 receptor. And for it to properly dock, it needs this TMP-RSS2. And this TMP-RSS2 is under androgenic influence. The other unique thing is that the T cell response of women is much more robust and stronger and sustained and durable compared to men, which has milder and less variable response. So as I said, that the androgen disadvantage in COVID impacts male gender outcome, and PCOS is an androgen excess milieu. Of course, there is a lot of phenotypic, androgenic PCOS, which needs investigation and study. Let us look at 4 facts. There is more severe COVID-19 in bald men and in women with androgenic alopecia. The other interesting feature is deprivation of androgens or androgen deprivation therapy, which is used in prostate cancer, has seen that these men have been partly protected compared to those men who are not androgen deprived. Third is reduction of viral load also has been seen in men and women who are both on androgen receptor inhibitors. So clearly there is direct and indirect evidence to suggest that androgenic status is one of the prime factors or the contributory factors in increased severity of COVID-19 in men. And this is what I was alluding to. When the SARS-CoV-2 RNA virus docks, it has a spike protein. It attaches to the ACE2 enzyme, which you can see in the diagram here. And that basically will upregulate a TMP-RSS2. And that TMP-RSS2 will ensure that the viral particle has an entry and the furin. And then, of course, the cascade starts. This TMP-RSS2 is regulated clearly by androgen or testosterone. So in a snapshot, if I have to summarize, we know that the SARS-CoV-2 RNA virus penetrates every host human tissue through binding of its spike protein to the angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors. After activation of the host protease enzymes like TMP-RSS2, this TMP-RSS2 is androgen dependent. The most prominent effect is when the virus binds to the ACE2 receptor is on the alveolar epithelium and endothelium, and which is why you get into a hypoxia in the lungs and endothelitis across the whole body. Testosterone is the most compelling hormone which exhibits an immunosuppressive effect, and androgens play a modulatory effect on the protease enzymes and therefore make the COVID worse and severe. We also clearly now know that various comorbidities, obesity, pregnancy, diabetes mellitus type 1 and 2, hypertension, cancer, chronic kidney disease, chronic liver disease, chronic lung disease, cerebrovascular disease, chronic heart disease, HIV, immunocompromised states, moderate or severe, or immune suppressive states affect severe COVID. And we all know that clearly PCOS is another comorbidity of COVID. We all know that women with PCOS may have clinical or biochemical hyperandrogenemia. 80% of PCOS women are obese. A large percentage of them are insulin resistant with high degree of development of gestational diabetes during pregnancy and type 2 diabetes at a relatively young age. And there is compelling and considerable data now accumulated that diabetes and obesity are predictors of severe morbidity and mortality in COVID infection. So clearly that data is there. So in the COVID space, 1, 2, 3 of diabetes, obesity, and hypertension is extremely well known. And this data came very, very clearly and elegantly that the diabetes space is a big risk marker. And COVID infection is related to development of diabetes also. Not only is COVID-related diabetes detrimental, but we also have seen new onset diabetes in hospitalized patients with COVID infections. We have seen higher ICU admissions compared to people who are diabetic or pre-existing diabetics compared to non-diabetics. And we have also seen higher mortality rates. In this graph, you can clearly see that people who have newly diagnosed diabetes or non-diabetics have a higher mortality. And that's something which is very sinister. The other thing which impacts COVID outcomes, which is very common with PCOS, is obesity. There is a lot of epidemiological evidence, and sorry for the small slide. There is a lot of evidence which links different adiposity indices to COVID-19. And it is directly linked to mortality and ARDS. There's a lot of genomic link stating that people with different ethnic groups are more propensity to develop with obesity COVID-19. Also, there is some data anecdotally to show that if you induce weight loss surgically or through weight loss promoting drugs, the COVID outcomes may be altered. But clearly, obesity raises a biological plausibility. We clearly understand that the excess fat stores or adipose tissue impairs immune response, blunts immune response in general, and therefore COVID becomes more deleterious. There are a lot of metabolic derangements which make poorer lung function, renal function, vascular health, and a chronic state of low-grade inflammation with a thrombocoagulable state. So what happens with obesity is there are significant multiple innate and acquired defects in immunity. We all know that whenever a virus enters our body, the first line of defense is the interferon, and we clearly know it exhibits reduced production of interferon signal transduction. And that is very, very clearly seen. We also know that in obese patients, the dendritic cells have numerical and functional defects. And we also know that in obese subjects, there is insufficient number and unbalanced subsets of T cells. And that is also combined with obesity-related thymus degeneration. Also, we know that the altered number and function of B cells, decreased antibody titers, cannot neutralize and inactivate SARS-CoV-2. So also the vaccine response is poorer because their inability to neutralize. And therefore, there is also now in the US making a compelling case for a booster dose. Coupled with abnormalities of other cells like natural killer cells or macrophages or dendritic cells and the antiviral immunity, obesity probably drives the formation of the systemic cytokine storm, which leads to mortality in COVID today. And all that is modulated through the ACE2. And there's very good genomic data to suggest that. So clearly, PCOS is a state of classical androgen excess, insulin resistant with chronic pro-inflammatory state. We clearly know that women with PCOS are now more susceptible to severe COVID infection. And therefore, in light of the various metabolic and endocrine changes which are observed, we clearly need to ensure as healthcare givers that we should provide special care and detailed counseling services. In fact, from a gender standpoint, the PCOS women are counted as androgen excess. Do we have data in this space including animal data. Well, this was a study done by Romero's group, where they have done a very interesting study, where they looked at the cardiac and the renal SARS-CoV-2 entry protein regulation by androgens and diet, and its implications in PCOS and COVID-19. So people have gone right up to the molecular level and have studied this. For example, in their study, what they looked at is the susceptibility and severity of COVID-19 caused by SARS-CoV-2 are associated with androgen excess, obesity, and pre-existing pulmonary, metabolic, renal, and cardiac conditions. We all know that when they analyzed in their study in mice models, they looked at cardiac, renal, circulatory, and urinary SARS-CoV-2 viral entry proteins like ACE2, TMP, RSS, transmembrane serine protease, TMP, RSS2, TMP, RSS4, furin, cathepsin L, and ADAM17. And they looked at also androgen receptor expression. And they made into, this was in a model, which was a peripubertal androgen exposure model of PCOS. And in the peripubertal female mice, then they treated them with dihydrotestosterone with a low-fat diet and a high-fat diet for 90 days. And clearly the high-fat diet exacerbated the dihydrotestosterone, increased body weight, fat mass, cardiac and renal hypertrophy. And in the heart, the dihydrotestosterone upregulated the androgen receptor protein, both in low-fat and high-fat diets. And the ACE2 in the high-fat diet, ADAM17 in the low-fat diet. And in the kidney, the androgen receptor protein expression was upregulated both by the dihydrotestosterone and high-fat diet, which clearly suggests what was the conclusion of that study, which they did in the animal experiment, is that women with PCOS could be a population for high risk of COVID-associated cardiac and renal complications. And lifestyle weight loss, low-fat diet could potentially mitigate the COVID-associated deleterious cardiorenal outcomes in women with PCOS. So this is a schematic which clearly shows that when the SARS-CoV-2 enters, and if there is androgen excess, what will happen is the neutrophil recruitment is impaired. There is impaired production of interferons from the NK cells. There is impaired macrophage activity. There is impaired antigen presentation, increased expression of ACE2 receptors, and a dysregulated immune response, which will lead to systemic inflammation, multi-organ dysfunction in ARDS, and death. And that is really the worrisome feature. Lot of treatment options related to PCOS and COVID, there is no data on published literature till date. But whatever data we have is in the diabetes space. We just heard a very elegant talk from Dr. Thanawala on the various anti-diabetic medications and metformin. But clearly we now know that when we manage hyperglycemia with COVID, it is all a patient-centric approach with age, severity of COVID, cardiovascular comorbidities, and hypoglycemic risk. Now, even when we are treating diabetes with COVID, we consider PCOS as an additional risk factor. Normally, if a patient is admitted, we stop all oral agents and start them on insulin. And otherwise, we stop them, the SGLT2 inhibitors, metformin, SUs, and insulins can be continued. Each of these agents have some impact on animal studies and human studies on the outcomes of COVID and glucose. But now there is data to suggest that metformin may be anti-COVID, pioglitazone may be anti-COVID, liraglutide may be anti-COVID, SGLT2 inhibitor, dapagliflozin ran a trial, but it was non-conclusive, but it's safe. And gliptins may be anti-COVID because we know that the MERS pandemic, which came in Saudi Arabia, the receptor of entry was the gliptin, the DPP4 enzyme, which is another serine protease. And therefore, gliptins or DPP4 enzymes have now been used as a marker in the diabetes space, in elderly space, in obese populations as a gliptin. And these gliptins are now low cost available in India. And these are nothing but serine protease blockers, the DPP4 enzyme blockers, and they can be SARS-CoV-2 protective. There's a lot of data published in that literature in the diabetic space. I would not go into details of that. But suffice to say that even in hospitalized patients, they reduce mortality substantially when people were given gliptin. They probably work again by blocking that little pathway of the SARS-CoV-2 binding to the endothelial cell. Here you can see that the membrane-bound DPP4 or CD26 is a facilitator for COVID entry, and that is blocked by the DPP-4 inhibitor like a gliptin. The other thing is there was a lot of controversy in the beginning about renin-angiotensin antagonists like ACE inhibitors and ARBs. Now we clearly know that they are not deleterious at all to human health, including the PCOS. Well, PCOS abates and continues. We have had one wave. We have had the second wave. We are now in the second wave tail. We are seeing in the US a third wave, but it is interrupted a lot of chronic care, including PCOS. And there might be a potential fourth wave, but it has led to a lot of psychic trauma, mental illness, burnout, and all this is a perfect milieu to even develop PCOS later. So remember, all disasters and pandemic pose unique healthcare challenges in healthcare delivery, and COVID was no different. We need to protect our patients and preserve ourselves. And PCOS is one such comorbidity which we need to preserve. And we need to use telemedicine effectively. We all know that, even now we are using a lot of these security messages. For example, if I talk to Madhuri or Nuru ma'am, I always use a WhatsApp. But apparently there is data now published that probably Telegram is recommended over WhatsApp and Viber, and it's fast, reliable, and has a better security feature. The other areas of interest are we need to ensure that in the COVID space with PCOS, water intake is important, vegetable and fruit intake is important, balance and proper diet is important, and avoid canned diet is equally important. The other thing is vaccine delivery has been disrupted, and people with PCOS must receive COVID vaccination on a priority, and they should also receive other vaccines on a priority if they are eligible in that population. For example, pneumococcal vaccine, influenza vaccine, so on and so forth. This is my last slide, and this is an article which Dr. Duru Shah wrote in the Journal of Human Reproduction. We clearly know that PCOS women of Indian ethnicity are high prevalence, and it's a vulnerable comorbidity in COVID-19. So it should be considered as a high risk and a vaccine priority. In fact, recently the European Society of Endocrinology published guidelines for the endocrine phenotype in the COVID pandemic. And PCOS is a typical representative of that. The guidelines suggest that patients with endocrine disorders should be considered as a high priority for vaccinations, including those individuals with diabetes and obesity. And therefore, we recommend PCOS women with their strong predisposition both to type 2 diabetes and obesity should be included as a high-risk group and prioritized for COVID vaccination in India. Thank you for a patient.